Aloha and welcome back to the Kupuna Connections television series. I'm Colin Hayashida with the Kapi'olani Community College's Kupuna Education Center. Every week we bring a different program, segment having to do with elder care, family caregiving, and for those that are actively retired. This week we're going to be talking about nutrition, nutrition for an active aging lifestyle. And we all know that you are what you eat, and so it's a very important topic that we should drill down and learn a little bit more about. But before we get started, let me ask my moderator, my co-host, to introduce herself and also our guest.
Aloha, my name's Tony Hathaway, and I'm a social worker and the education coordinator at the Kupuna Education Center at Kapi'olani Community College.
Hi, I'm Cindy Kahalivali, and I'm a registered dietitian in Hawaii. I'm a nutrition project coordinator at UH Manoa Center on the Family, and I also teach at KCC.
At KCC, Kapi'olani Community College. Good.
Yes.
So, Cindy, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let me first, start out with some questions about nutrition, but maybe something that is broader than that in terms of the fact that, we are all living longer and hopefully healthier. Mm-hmm. But what can you say is contributing to, this healthy lifestyle?
Mm-hmm. Well, we're living longer. I think people are more interested in nutrition. They're listening, and they're learning on their own as well. So it's challenging being a dietitian today because people are getting messages all over the place, even by friends, on the internet, TV.
Right.
And so part of it I see in my job is just trying to teach about what is reputable, good nutrition science versus other rumors.
Right. Now, we have a slide that you shared with us that sort of talks about the different types of factors that is contributing to a healthy lifestyle. Maybe you can kind of share with us what we see here.
Well, we know that healthy aging has something to do with genetics, which is we can't do anything about who our mom and dad are. But diet and exercise are very important, as well as just interacting socially with others. In fact, we know that people eat better when they eat with other people versus being by themselves and isolated. So, but I know today we're going to focus on the nutrition aspect of healthy aging.
Okay. Right. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
So let's talk about the value of nutrition and healthy aging. Does it matter how much we eat? Should we eat more? Should we eat less? Or there's certain kinds of things?
I think the take-home message there is that it does matter what you eat, and as we get older, our metabolism starts to drop. And so actually to maintain the same weight, we do need to eat a little less.
That's the shucks part.
Yeah. That's why you do see people as they get older put on another 10, 20 pounds. So, and they think, well, I'm eating the same as I usually do. Why am I gaining weight all of a sudden? It's just because I'm getting old. And well, no, it's because your metabolism has slowed down. So eating a little less and then being mindful about what you are eating. So in other words, everything that goes in your mouth really does have to count because you're eating less calories.
I remember having family parties where we have spaghetti, meatballs, 2 scoops of rice, and macaroni salad. And that's a lot of calories, of course.
Well, I was just talking with someone the other day about how they grew up eating spaghetti with rice. And
only in Hawaii.
Yeah, or spaghetti with poi, which would probably be better. But yeah, I mean, we all grew up with comfort foods and foods that we're familiar with. But I think people are becoming more aware about how important fruits and vegetables are, for example. And maybe when we were younger, we didn't eat that. We always had a pot of rice. And nowadays, I'm hearing people say, we don't have to make rice every day. But we do need to get more fruits and vegetables on the plate. So in fact, half your plate should be fruits and vegetables.
Okay, yeah.
So those sort of nutrient-rich foods.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, let's talk a little bit about this weight issue. People, of course, know that they should sort of trim down a bit, lose some weight. But sometimes they're not quite certain as to what is the ideal body weight. You know,
Right.
I mean, if you see somebody that is too thin, you know, that might not necessarily be healthy. So, you know, what can you suggest as to what is ideal, and you know, how do you get there?
Well, weight is a very individual thing. So you can have two people, let's say, that are two women that are both 5'3",
Uh-huh.
and one could be a healthy weight at 110 pounds, and
Uh-huh.
another one could be a healthy weight at 140 pounds.
Uh-huh.
So it really depends on a lot of things: bone structure, how much muscle mass they have in their body, and they both could be equally healthy. So there is no set number. You know, there's charts out there and calculations that people do to come up with an ideal body weight. I usually ask people, when did you feel your best? You know, at what weight did you, we all kind of know that weight that we've been at, that we really just felt awesome and, you know, could do whatever exercise we wanted to do. And so I usually ask people that question.
Okay, that must be the reason why I'm heavy. My bones are heavy.
That's it.
Yeah. I think we have a slide about weight.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. We had a slide about weight. Perhaps we
You
can
might
see
wanna
that
look.
at this point. Do you have it? There you go.
There, the
Maybe you can
cartoon.
explain what this is all about.
Oh, yeah, you know, everyone's looking for the secret and asking their doctor, you know, what can I do? And I like that cartoon because the doctor just says, eat less, you know, and after all the medicine and all the research that we have, that really is what it just comes down to. We really are a nation of more is better, you know, portion distortion and all of that. You know, when you go to McDonald's and get a Coke, the regular size Coke now, years ago, would have been considered a super size. So it's kind of creeped up on us over the years. So we don't realize now that our portions are much bigger.
I
So
see.
we're just eating more altogether. And so just to be mindful, because we, for many years, were saying, you know, fat is bad. And so then all these low-fat products came out and fat-free products. And now we're realizing that not all fats are bad. So there are some good fats.
Yay.
I think the general rule of thumb is the liquid fats, liquid at room temperature, are the better fats in general. So I'm talking about things like olive oil, vegetable oils, where butters, margarines, anything solid, of course, lard, bacon fat, or fat on meats, those are the kind of fats that you want to stay away from.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay.
What about protein? Protein, you know, we all know that it's important, and we should have that in our diet. But how much is enough? You know, and what's the best source?
You know, protein is something that I've talked a lot about in my career. I've seen a lot of elderly people. I've been a dietitian in the hospital for years, and protein is so important to fight infection. And as we get older, we become more prone to just getting sick, pneumonia, flu, whatever. And so eating good sources of protein is very important. It's challenging because, for one, it can be expensive. So getting some chicken or meat in your diet every day, and I'm not talking about a large portion, maybe the size of a deck of cards, but just getting some kind of good protein in your diet every day is important. You can get a good source of protein with eggs, and that's not very expensive. So, but your immune system needs protein to work. So if your protein levels are low in your body, then you're just more prone to infection.
Oh,
Wow.
okay.
And also with exercise, you need some protein to help build that muscle mass.
I think we have a slide on protein that shows
Yeah.
some of the
Yeah.
kinds of protein that are that you've been talking
Right.
about that
Yeah.
are good
And
for
it's
you.
and it is good to get protein from meat and chicken, but also beans are good sources of protein. Nuts, you know, there's places in the world where people live the longest, and one of the things that they do is eat a handful of nuts almost every day. Not a huge handful, but just a little 1 or 2 ounces.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's another thing that for a long time we were told, oh, yeah, nuts are bad for you because they have a
'Cause
lot
they
of
have
fat
fat,
in them.
right.
But it turns out they have the kind of fat that's okay.
Right.
So it's
Right.
it's okay to eat nuts again. Maybe not
Yes.
huge amounts, but
Yes.
in moderation.
So fish and meat and chicken, nuts.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, if you look at the Mediterranean diet, they really are, it's an interesting diet, and it's being looked at because people that follow that diet are living longer. So they only eat fish about twice a week, and they have a steak maybe once a week, but they do eat nuts every day, and they also eat very sharp cheese that's very low fat, and just a little bit because it's so tasty that they feel satisfied with just 1 or 2 ounces. So protein is important, but being mindful that you're getting it in your diet throughout the week.
You were talking about eggs as having protein. Is it the yolk side or is it the white side?
It's the white side.
The white side has it.
Yes. And
Really?
eggs, eggs are, even the yolk has a lot of nutritional value, and they kind of got a bad rap, when we started to get worried about cholesterol, and everyone said, oh, well, stop eating eggs, but they didn't stop eating all the other high cholesterol foods. So eggs are okay in moderation. And I've worked with some doctors who have told their patients to eat 2 eggs every day because their protein was so low. And they were on a limited budget, so.
Yeah, and relatively inexpensive from that standpoint.
Yeah. Well, I guess the other thing we hear a lot about is water and how important that is. And maybe you can give us a bit of an idea of how much we should drink and why.
Right. I think of drinking water as a habit. Most of us don't drink enough water. And it really is something that you have to work into your lifestyle, carrying a bottle of water with you and making sure that you're drinking throughout the day. And many times we're thirsty and we think that we're hungry, so we go for food. So next time you feel hungry, try drinking some water, and it might just be that you were thirsty. A good way to know whether you're drinking enough water or not is look at the color of your urine. If it's very, clear or light yellow, that's a good indication that you're pretty hydrated.
Okay.
If it looks darker, then you're probably
you're
not
taking enough.
Yeah, and you can also look at your skin, the skin turgor, and see if it bounces back nicely, or if your skin's looking kind of dry, your mouth is dry. That could be signs of dehydration. As we get older, we lose that sensation of thirst, so that's why elderly are more prone to dehydration. And we store a lot of our water in our muscle, and elderly tend to lose muscle mass when they get older, so they have less capacity to store water.
Right. Well, I do know you need to encourage somebody who's not well and elderly to remind them to drink enough, because that's one of the big problems is being dehydrated.
Yeah, and they even forget. When's the last time you had water? I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, many people don't even bother carrying a bottle of water around with them too.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about some of these mineralized drinks or these various? Well, what do you think? Or sports drinks, for that matter.
I love that topic. I have my students do a project on that because they're famous for walking around with all these kinds of drinks. And I ask them, so why are you drinking that versus water? Well, it's better for you, and it says right here on the can, And marketing is huge for these kind of things. And of course, they want to sell it, and they're quite expensive. Whatever your body doesn't use, if it's water soluble, it just comes out in your urine.
Right.
So, and if you're not doing active sports every day, you probably don't need those things. Just plain water is fine.
Okay.
And right out of the faucet, our water in Hawaii is pretty good.
Pretty good, yeah. Okay. Well, here's another one having to do with fiber. Well, we hear about, fiber is important for you, but are all fibers the same? Why is it important?
Well, fiber is important to help keep us regular,
Okay.
right? And so if you don't eat a high fiber diet, you can get constipated, and that's not good. I have to say also that those that do eat high fiber but don't drink enough water can also get constipated. So going back to the water, fiber and water are both important. Now, there is 2 kinds of fiber. There's soluble and insoluble fiber, and they do have different functions in the body. So it's important to get both. Basically, if you eat fruits and vegetables, and I mentioned the plate, if half your plate is filled with fruits and vegetables and not the steak portion, then you're getting a good amount of fruits and vegetables in your diet. And variety is also good, so then you'll get both kinds of fiber. Yeah, and that's one argument to choose brown rice over white rice. People
White
ask,
rice does not have as much fiber?
Right, as brown rice. So it does make a difference. I was
Okay.
talking with someone the other day who said, "Oh, my husband doesn't like the brown rice, but he'll eat the hapa rice." I said, "Well, then make the hapa rice. Don't make the white rice because then he eats the whole pot," she says.
Yeah.
But now, so whether or not it's soluble or insoluble fiber, it still has a positive effect on the regularity.
Yeah. The insoluble fiber is the one that helps to bulk up the stool more, and the soluble fiber is the one that helps to lower our cholesterol.
Okay.
So they have different
So
roles.
different roles and
Right.
different functions.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
So, I have to say something about processed foods because that's part of our problem these days. If you think about the grocery store, think about what's all down the middle aisles. It's all boxes and cans of things, right? But if you look at the perimeter of the grocery store, that's where the fruits and vegetables are, the proteins, even the dairy and whatnot. I mean, I can pretty much do all my grocery shopping just going in the perimeter of the store. So next time you stop to go down a middle aisle, think about what's down that aisle. For example, tomato sauce. Why not just make your own with fresh tomatoes, a little olive oil, mushrooms, capers, whatever you want to add to it. So
the processed foods are, I guess they have a lot more salt. They have chemicals.
Yes, and I mentioned them because they have less fiber, too.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Another good point. Okay. Well, the other thing we hear a lot about is, you go to the pharmacy and there are so many supplements. This one is going to be good for your brain. This one's going to be good for your health, your heart, and they're kind of expensive, but they sound really great. Is there something you could tell us about supplements and whether or not those are a good thing for us?
Yeah, that's a loaded topic.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, it is.
You need 3 interviews. Right?
Well, yeah. I mean, first of all, when people spend lots of money, they go home thinking, I want this to work. Of course they do, because they just spent $200 or whatever. So there's the whole placebo effect. They say they feel better. There really is no supplement out there, no one nutrient that we know of that is going to prolong life. I mean, if we did know that, don't you think we would all know that? Don't you think maybe health insurance we would know this and we would talk about it. So that's why it's debatable because the marketing is so strong. It really is a multi-million-dollar, business, and people are sold on it, and sold by people that work in these stores. So, yeah.
Now I think we have a slide for this.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, something else I wanted to say about supplements is when you're seeing a physician, and hopefully everybody is, at least annually, he'll ask you, what are all the medications you're on, and so that you'll tell them. And people don't think to say, and oh, by the way, I'm taking, all these supplements and listing them. And sometimes doctors don't ask, but there can be contraindications between these supplements and medication.
So it's always a good thing to share with the physician everything that you're taking.
Yes, and then before starting something new, especially if you're on a medication, you could really cause some trouble for yourself.
Right.
Maybe we can go back to the slide and share a little bit about what we're seeing here with this particular slide.
Yeah, I did a talk with another group, and they wanted to know about the fountain of youth and is there such a thing? And
and there is no such thing.
Basically, the feedback after my talk was, well, we've heard all this already, and so, but, there really is no secret other than watching your diet and exercise.
Yeah.
Okay. So you just have to be careful.
Yes.
Well, and I wanted sort of to emphasize the fact that it is important to to let your physician know what you're taking because they interact with other medications. And often if you're going to have a procedure of some kind, you actually need to stop those also, not just some of the other medicines.
Yes.
But, so it is important to talk it over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people could be having side effects from the supplement and thinking it's a medication, or it's really hard to discern where, the side effect is coming from.
But your slide also had one recommendation about multivitamins.
Yes, I think it's important to consider taking a multivitamin with mineral, and there's no special product out there either. Just all the mainstream, brands are fine, even CVS, or I basically get whatever's on sale, So, and the reason for that is because You know, we all know what we're supposed to do as far as nutrition goes, but there's days where we don't quite get all our fruits and vegetables in, and that's where a lot of our vitamins and minerals come from. So it's kind of a good safety net. Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess, you know, those can be relatively inexpensive
Right.
too.
Right.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your brain health in terms of memory loss. Is there anything that you can suggest as far as nutrition is concerned that could be of help?
There is some work out there being done on brain health, and it's very interesting. Apparently with food, the food can play a role as far as memory goes. And so I did see some studies about increasing blood flow in the brain and may help with memory. But it turns out that it really goes back to fruits and vegetables, eating fish, especially salmon and herring and tuna. Nuts was mentioned in the diet. In fact, they talk about the Mediterranean diet. So
we have that slide there, that you wanted to share with.
Berries and cherries, so real dark red types of fruits. So there's some work out there that's showing some indication it may help with memory. You know, I know there's a supplement out there called ginkgo biloba, and the joke is it only works if you remember to take it.
But you make a reference again to the Mediterranean diet there too, yeah?
Yeah.
But it looks like there are quite a few local foods that would fit into the kinds of things you were just talking about in terms of things that are healthy for the brain too, like nuts and you know, tuna.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know, you know, part of our challenge in Hawaii has been that when we look at a lot of nutrition information that's online, we don't have the local food information on there. So now we do have a website, and you know, people may not be aware, but there is a website you could go to look up, you know, poi, musubi. You know, it's actually not so bad if you have one once in a while versus other local foods. So so there is a website you can go to look up nutrition information.
Can you share a little bit more about this website?
Sure. It's a huge database, and we're partnering with Cancer Research Center. And so this database actually came from food frequency questionnaires. So what do people eat in Hawaii? And then the research was done on the nutrition analysis, and we're sharing it with the public now. So it's Hawaii Foods is the name of the website, and you can search individual foods. You may not even know the name of the food that you want to research, but maybe you just know what it looks like. Maybe you went to Chinatown and saw something weird, some kind of weird vegetable, and you want to try it. We do have photos of fruits and vegetables and different types of foods, so you can search it by photo.
Really?
Right. And we're working on it now to put lots more information on there. We want to put much more recipes and even nutrition information. Right now there's a fact sheet on lower sodium tips. So we're going to do...
Not so much show you?
Right.
So how are people supposed to use this website?
Anybody has access to it. So you just go to hawaiifoods.hawaii.edu and you don't
How is it useful? How is it useful?
I think it's very valuable because it really is the only tool for local foods. So, you know, there are other websites out. In fact, there's a lot of websites you can go to, like the USDA My Plate, Super Tracker. There's fitday.com. There's all kinds of apps that people have on their phone now to track their food and nutritional value of things. But the key there is that there's not a lot of local foods on there. So if you want to put local moco for breakfast, you're probably not going to find it on the USDA database.
It's really kind of fabulous, fun website because, as you say, it has all these things that we're all familiar with and we like to eat. And usually there's just no way, or it's very difficult to maybe try to figure out what all is in there. Or like, you know, seaweed. That has, it turns out that's, you know, has a lot of nutritional value, but where do you find that?
Yeah. So, like, for example, if you wanted to increase the fiber in your diet because of what you've heard us talk about today, you could start looking up some of the foods you're eating and learn which ones are higher in fiber, even comparing brown rice with white rice, for example.
Okay. Okay.
Right. Are we at the point where we need one last tip?
Yes.
One last tip.
One
If you
last
wanted
tip.
to leave our
Yeah.
viewers with one last tip, what
Well,
would
we were
it
talking
be?
about healthy aging.
Yes.
So healthy aging really is about, it is important, what you're eating, and that as we get older, sadly, our metabolism does tend to drop. What can help is exercise. That can help bring up your metabolism, but the truth is we do need to probably lower our calorie intake a little bit. And so in doing that, the concern is that you may not be getting all the nutrition that you need. So the other tip is just to be mindful of everything that you're eating and make it count. So as far as nutrition and vitamins and minerals and protein, and stay away from foods that don't have much nutritional value at all.
So eat less and be mindful by making it count.
Right,
Okay.
more nutrient-dense types of foods.
Okay. Okay. Very good suggestions. And thank you, Cindy, for joining us today.
Thank you.
And for all of our viewers out there, thank you for joining us for this particular discussion on nutrition for an active aging lifestyle. See you again next week. Aloha.